Wuthering Heights Summary and Analysis. The story begins when Mr. Lockwood, a quiet man from the city, decides to rent a house in the Yorkshire moors. The house is called Thrushcross Grange. He wants solitude and peace, far from the noise of people and business. His landlord is a mysterious man named Heathcliff, who lives a few miles away at a place called Wuthering Heights. Side note: Wuthering is a word particular to the area of Yorkshire. It describes a typically stormy weather with lots of wind spinning upward. It also represents a sense of wilderness and isolation and harsh weather. Out of curiosity, Lockwood visits Heathcliff, but Wuthering Heights is nothing like he imagined. The house feels gloomy and wind-beaten. The people are stiff, angry and secretive. A young woman speaks rudely. A boy behaves more like a servant than a family member. Heathcliff himself is distant and rough, as though life has turned him into stone. That night, after Lockwood returns home, he has a disturbing dream. He dreams of a ghost named Catherine, who cries and begs to be let inside. Frightened, he asks the housekeeper, Nellie Dane, to explain who these people really are. And that's when the real story begins, one full of love, betrayal and revenge. Years ago, Wuthering Heights was a livelier home. It belonged to Mr. Earnshaw, a strict but decent man who had two children, Hindley, his son, and Catherine, his daughter. On a trip to Liverpool, Mr. Earnshaw found a poor orphan boy on the streets. He brought him home and named him Heathcliff. From the start, Hindley hated the boy. Catherine, however, was drawn to him. She didn't care that he was dirty or silent. They became inseparable. Together, they ran wild across the moors, barefoot and free, building a world of their own. As they grew up, the bond between Catherine and Heathcliff deepened. But it was never an easy love. When Mr. Earnshaw died, Hindley returned to Wuthering Heights as the master. Now, full of pride and bitterness, Hindley treated Heathcliff like a servant. He sent him to the stables and stopped his education. Yet, even in this harsh environment, Catherine and Heathcliff clung to each other. One night, for fun, they sneaked over to Thrushcross Grange, the grand house of the Linton family. They were caught and Catherine was injured. She ended up staying with the Lintons for several weeks to recover. When she returned, everything had changed. She was dressed like a lady and behaved more gently. She had grown close to the Linton's son, Edgar. Heathcliff saw the change and felt something shift inside him. Catherine still loved him, but now she was also drawn to the soft, comfortable life the Lintons could offer. Soon after, Edgar Linton proposed to Catherine. She said yes. But she didn't say yes because she didn't love Heathcliff. She said yes because she thought marrying Edgar would help her rise in society. She confessed to Nellie, the housekeeper, that she would be miserable without Heathcliff, that they were the same soul in two bodies, but she couldn't marry him, she said, because it would be a step down in life. Unluckily, Heathcliff overheard only part of that conversation. He heard that she had chosen Edgar. That night, he disappeared without saying goodbye. Catherine was heartbroken by his sudden disappearance, but time passed and she married Edgar. For a while, life at Thrushcross Grange was calm. Catherine tried to fit into her new role, though something in her never fully settled. 3 years later, Heathcliff returned. But he was no longer the poor orphan boy. He had become a man of wealth and confidence. No one knew how he had made his fortune, but he now dressed well, spoke firmly, and carried himself with power. Yet, under the polished surface, something darker had taken root. His return wasn't about peace. It was about revenge. First, he targeted Hindley, who had ruined himself through drinking and gambling. Heathcliff began lending Hindley money, slowly gaining control of Wuthering Heights. Next, he turned toward Thrushcross Grange. He began visiting Catherine and Edgar often. Edgar hated it, but Catherine couldn't stay away. Her old feelings came rushing back. Their emotional triangle grew tense. Edgar finally snapped and forced Catherine to choose, but she broke under the pressure. Her health deteriorated, both mentally and physically. She became sick with fever and confusion. Eventually, she gave birth to a baby girl, also named Catherine, and then she died. Her death broke Heathcliff. He didn't cry or scream. He went to her grave and begged her ghost to haunt him. He wanted no peace. He wanted her presence, even if it came in the form of torment. He said he couldn't live without her and didn't want to. After Catherine's death, Heathcliff's desire for revenge only deepened. He raised Hindley's son, Hareton as a servant, denying him education and love the same way Hindley had once treated him. Heathcliff had become the man he once hated. Meanwhile, young Catherine and Edgar's daughter, grew up in Thrushcross Grange unaware of her family's painful past. She was kind and curious, much like her mother once was. One day, she wandered to Wuthering Heights and met Hareton. At first, she looked down on him, not knowing he was her cousin or that he had been robbed of a proper life. Heathcliff saw an opportunity. He tricked young Cathy into marrying his own son, Linton, a weak and spoiled boy. Heathcliff knew Linton was sick and would soon die, but he wanted control of Thrushcross Grange through marriage. The plan worked. Linton died shortly after the wedding, and Cathy was left alone, now under Heathcliff's authority. At this point, Heathcliff had everything. Both Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange belonged to him. But instead of feeling victorious, he felt empty. The revenge that had driven him for years no longer gave him peace. Catherine was gone, and her absence still haunted him. He started to act strangely. He walked around in a trance, whispering to ghosts, skipping meals, and refusing to speak to people. He confessed to Nellie that he saw Catherine's spirit everywhere, in the trees, in the wind, in the moonlight. He believed she was calling him. One morning they found him dead in her old bedroom. His eyes were open, a faint smile on his face. It was as if he had finally been reunited with the only person he ever truly loved. He was buried next to her, just as he had always wanted. After Heathcliff's death, the dark shadow over Wuthering Heights began to lift. Young Cathy, once bitter and trapped, softened. She forgave Hareton and began teaching him to read. Slowly they grew close. They laughed together, worked together, loved each other. The pain of the past did not vanish, but something new was growing in its place. Cathy and Hareton planned to marry and move to Thrushcross Grange. They hoped to start a new life, one based not on revenge or anger, but on care and respect. It felt like the cycle had been broken. Like the story of Catherine and Heathcliff, full of fire and ruin, was giving way to a gentler kind of love. The writer of Wuthering Heights. Emily Brontë wrote Wuthering Heights in the mid-1840s, but she didn't put her real name on it. Like many women writers of her time, she used a male pen name, Alice Bell, so her work would be taken seriously. The book was unlike anything readers had seen. It shocked many people. It wasn't gentle or sweet. It was wild, passionate, and full of pain. Emily didn't live long enough to see how powerful her story would become. She died in 1848, just 1 year after the book was published. But Wuthering Heights lived on, and over time, the world began to understand the genius behind it. Can we call Wuthering Heights a tragedy? Yes, Wuthering Heights can definitely be called a tragedy. At its core, the novel tells the story of two people, Heathcliff and Catherine, who love each other deeply but are torn apart by pride, class, revenge, and timing. Their love, instead of healing them, ends up destroying them and everyone around them. Catherine dies young, unhappy in her marriage. Heathcliff spends the rest of his life haunted by her memory, driven by anger and obsession. Innocent characters like Hareton, Linton, and young Cathy suffer because of the choices made by the older generation. There is no happy ending for the main characters. Even when Heathcliff finally dies, it's not a moment of peace. It's the result of years of pain and emptiness. The story is full of loss, loneliness, and broken dreams. Though the next generation begins to heal, the weight of the past is heavy. That's what makes it a tragedy. Not just because people die, but because love, which should have saved them, became the very thing that ruined them. Is Heathcliff a protagonist or an antagonist of the story? Heathcliff is both the protagonist and the antagonist of Wuthering Heights. That's what makes him such a complex and unforgettable character. As the protagonist, the story revolves around his journey. We see his rise from a poor orphan to a powerful man. Much of the plot is driven by his actions, emotions, and choices. His love for Catherine, his suffering, and his need for revenge form the heart of the novel. But he is also the antagonist, especially to the people around him. After Catherine marries Edgar, Heathcliff becomes bitter and cruel. He ruins Hindley, mistreats Hareton, forces Cathy to marry his son, and shows no mercy to anyone. His actions bring pain and destruction even to the next generation. So he is not a clear hero or villain, he is both. He is a man shaped by deep love and deeper wounds. That's why readers often feel torn, hating what he does but still feeling sorry for him. Main characters in Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff, an orphan boy taken in by Mr. Unshaw, he feels deeply in love with Catherine, but after being rejected, he becomes bitter and vengeful. As he grows older, he takes revenge on everyone who wronged him. He is both the hero and the villain of the story. Catherine, wild, strong-willed, and deeply connected to Heathcliff. But she chooses to marry Edgar Linton for status and comfort, not love. Her choice leads to misery and regret. She dies young after giving birth to her daughter. Edgar Linton, a kind, gentle man from the wealthy Linton family. He marries Catherine and tries to give her a peaceful life, but he can never truly understand the bond between her and Heathcliff. Isabella Linton, Edgar's sister, she falls in love with Heathcliff, not knowing how dangerous he really is. The marriage is unhappy and abusive. She later runs away and raises their son alone till she dies. Hindley Unshaw, Catherine's brother, he hates Heathcliff from the beginning. After his wife dies, he turns to alcohol and loses control of Wuthering Heights, allowing Heathcliff to take over. Nellie Dean, the housekeeper who serves both families. She tells most of the story to Mr. Lockwood. She sees everything and plays a key role in the lives of the characters. Kathy Linton, young Catherine, daughter of Catherine and Edgar. She is smart, brave, and kind-hearted. She suffers under Heathcliff's control but later finds love with Hareton. Linton Heathcliff, son of Heathcliff and Isabella. Weak and spoiled, he is used by Heathcliff as a tool to hurt others. He marries Kathy but dies shortly after. Hareton Unshaw, son of Hindley, raised by Heathcliff as a servant without education or love. Over time, he falls in love with Kathy and begins to grow into a better man. Mr. Lockwood, a gentleman who rents Thrushcross Grange, he is the outsider through whom we learn the story. Curious but distant, he listens to Nellie's tale and tries to make sense of it all. Important questions about Wuthering Heights. What's the importance of the "I am Heathcliff" statement in Wuthering Heights? Here is a full quote. "I am Heathcliff. He is always, always in my mind, not as a pleasure any more than I am always a pleasure to myself, but as my own being." One of the most famous and powerful lines in Wuthering Heights. It appears in chapter 9 during a conversation between Catherine and Nellie Dean, the housekeeper. Catherine is trying to explain her feelings for both Edgar Linton and Heathcliff. She admits that she has accepted Edgar's marriage proposal, even though deep down she knows that she and Heathcliff are connected in a way that goes beyond normal love. Catherine isn't just saying she loves Heathcliff. She's saying that they are the same. Their souls are one. She doesn't see him as separate from herself. Loving him isn't a choice. It's her nature. She can no more stop loving him than she can stop being herself. This line shows the depth and danger of their relationship. It's not a healthy love. It's something intense, wild, and impossible to break. That's why when Catherine chooses to marry Edgar instead, it creates so much destruction. She tries to live a normal life while her heart still belongs to Heathcliff, and that tension leads to tragedy. So when Catherine says, "I am Heathcliff," she is revealing that her identity and soul are tied to his. And that's one reason why the novel is remembered as one of the most haunting love stories ever written. Why is Wuthering Heights considered a tragic love story? I have already talked about this particular question previously in the video. Wuthering Heights is considered a tragic love story because the love between Heathcliff and Catherine is intense but destructive. They are soulmates who can't be together in life. Catherine marries someone else, and Heathcliff spends the rest of his life trying to hurt the people who came between them. Their love doesn't bring peace, it brings pain. Is Heathcliff a hero or a villain? He is both. In the beginning, he is a victim of cruelty and class prejudice, but later he becomes cruel himself. He hurts people, manipulates lives, and destroys families. Readers may feel sympathy for him, but his actions make him a dangerous and tragic figure. Why does Catherine marry Edgar if she loves Heathcliff? Catherine says she loves Heathcliff with her soul, but marrying him would ruin her socially because he is poor and uneducated. She chooses Edgar for comfort and status, but regrets it deeply. This choice leads to unhappiness for everyone. What role does revenge play in the novel? Revenge drives most of Heathcliff's actions after Catherine's death. He ruins Hindley, forces Cathy to marry his son, and treats Hareton poorly, all to punish those who wronged him. His revenge continues until the end of his life, showing how destructive it can be. What is the meaning of the title Wuthering Heights? Wuthering Heights refers to strong, turbulent winds in the Yorkshire moors. It reflects the emotional storms inside the house and within the characters. The house itself becomes a symbol of isolation, power, and emotional chaos. How does the second generation, Kathy and Hareton, bring hope to the story? While the first generation, Heathcliff and Catherine, ends in tragedy, the second generation offers healing. Kathy and Hareton overcome hatred and misunderstanding. They fall in love, learn from each other, and plan a better future, breaking the cycle of pain. Why did Emily Brontë use a framed narrative? A story within a story. The story is told through Mr. Lockwood, who listens to Nellie Dean. This layered structure allows readers to see the events through different eyes. It creates distance, mystery, and suspense, and helps us see how outsiders struggle to understand deep emotional truths. There are many famous books that have been written using the same framed narrative, including Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, and The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. What is the role of nature in the novel? Nature is everywhere. Wild moors, strong winds, rough weather. It reflects the characters' emotions. Catherine and Heathcliff are like nature, untamed and passionate. The setting is not just background, it mirrors the stormy, intense feelings in the story. How does social class affect the characters' choices? Class plays a big role. Heathcliff is treated badly because he is an outsider and has no wealth. Catherine chooses not to marry him partly because of this. Many of the conflicts in the novel come from people trying to rise or fall in social class. What does Heathcliff represent in the novel? He can be seen as a symbol of raw, untamed passion and the dark side of human nature. Some also view him as a symbol of the outsider, someone rejected by society who takes revenge on it. Is Wuthering Heights a Gothic novel? Yes, it has many Gothic elements. A dark, stormy setting, themes of death and obsession, ghostly visions, and emotionally extreme characters. The atmosphere is intense and often unsettling. Is the ending of Wuthering Heights hopeful or sad? It's both. The main characters, Heathcliff and Catherine, die without peace, but their children, Kathy and Hareton, end the cycle of revenge and bitterness. Their love suggests that healing is possible even after deep pain. Why does Emily Brontë use death and the supernatural in the story? Death is always present, as if no one can escape it. The supernatural, like Catherine's ghost, keeps the characters emotionally trapped. These elements show how love and suffering can continue even after someone is gone. How does the setting affect the mood and characters? The wild moors, harsh weather, and isolated houses add to the dark mood. Wuthering Heights feels cold and cruel, while Thrushcross Grange feels calm but distant. The setting shapes how characters live, feel, and behave. Why you should read Wuthering Heights? It's not a typical love story. This is not about flowers, gentle kisses, or happy endings. It's about passion, obsession, and pain. If you want a story that explores the darker side of love, Wuthering Heights is unforgettable. The characters are raw and real. Heathcliff and Catherine are not perfect. They are flawed, intense, and sometimes cruel. But they feel alive on the page. You may not like them, but you won't forget them. The book dives deep into human emotion. Revenge, grief, jealousy, guilt, longing. This book doesn't hold back. It shows what people are capable of when they are hurt and how love can turn into destruction. It has beautiful writing and description of the atmosphere. Emily Brontë's language is poetic but powerful. The wild moors, the howling winds, the haunted house, everything builds a mood that stays with you long after you finish reading. It challenges you. The book forces you to think about love, about pain, about what shapes a person. It doesn't offer easy answers. That's what makes it literature, not just a story. Why you might not want to read Wuthering Heights? It's emotionally heavy. There is a lot of suffering. People die, fight, cry, and hurt each other. If you are looking for comfort and romance, this book can feel harsh and depressing. The characters are not likable. Heathcliff is cruel and vengeful. Catherine is selfish and confused. You may struggle to root for anyone. That makes it hard for some readers to connect with the story. The structure can be confusing. The story is told through multiple layers of narration. Lockwood, Nellie, letters. Events aren't always in order. If you prefer simple, direct storytelling, this might feel frustrating. The pace is slow in some parts. Especially in the beginning, it takes time to get into the story. Some readers give up early because they feel lost or bored before the main plot unfolds. It's dark. The book deals with death, child abuse, emotional cruelty, and obsession. It's not light reading. If you are in a sensitive mood, it might not be the right time to read it. And with this, I would like to end the summary and analysis of Wuthering Heights. I hope you liked it. If yes, please like the video and subscribe to my channel so that you receive a notification whenever I upload the next video.